Rumors have been swirling lately about a potential return to play in the NBA coming soon, with training camps possibly resuming in the coming weeks and actual games returning next month. With that said, there are plenty of obvious choices when it comes to players we've missed watching the most, but the point of this video is not to talk about those choices. Instead, today we'll be talking about 9 of the most slept on players of the season, and when play resumes, I definitely encourage you to watch them play yourselves and realize why they're on a list like this. These players are all having superb seasons in their own separate ways, yet aren't exactly the players that typically come to mind when you talk about good players in the NBA. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first player up on this list of slept-on players this season is someone who actually grew fairly overrated over the last few years to the point that now nobody pays him any mind, thus resulting in him becoming underrated, being Terry Rozier of the Charlotte Hornets. Rozier was a bench player for the Boston Celtics for the first 4 years of his career, and specifically in the playoffs of 2018, he had some explosive games filling in for uninjured Kyrie Irving that led people to believe that he was ready to step into a big-time playmaker role. However, last year he wound up taking a step back as a player, and the fact that he was always one of the most inconsistent and inefficient scorers in the league got him labeled by most as overrated. So when he signed a pretty big contract with Charlotte this summer, most wrote it off as a mistake and then forgot about him. But looking at what he's done so far this year, he has easily been playing the best basketball of his life, and most importantly, his consistency and efficiency have both improved immensely. He's averaging 18 points per game while shooting about 42% from the field and a very impressive 41% from 3, and all of those numbers are career highs. He may not be a star, but for the $19 million per year he signed in his contract, he's actually making that contract look reasonable. The next player up on this list of slept-on players is the only all-star on the list, being Khris Middleton. On the Milwaukee Bucks, it's very difficult not to look at what Giannis Antetokounmpo is doing and associate a lot of the success of the team to him, and for good reason. But at the same time, his sidekick Middleton more often than not gets forgotten about. Middleton is in the middle of what is easily the best season of his career, posting career highs in points with 21 per game and field goal percentage at 50%. He also shoots a highly efficient 42% from 3, and overall, his reliable and consistent shooting ability opens things up a ton for Giannis to dominate inside. He's on track to join the highly exclusive 50-40-90 club, and I legitimately haven't heard anybody talking about this being the case. The Bucks have the best record in basketball right now, and the reason why they're so dangerous isn't just because they have the MVP of the league on their team, but it's also because their number 2 option is so reliable. Next up on this list of slept-on players this season is a player that has been running the second unit of one of the most quietly good teams of the year, being Dennis Schroder of the Oklahoma City Thunder. When the Thunder traded Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul this summer, many assumed the team was ready to tank and, as a result, wrote them off. Then, very early in the season, we all realized that they're not planning on going anywhere, and have not only remained competitive, but are firmly cemented with a spot in the playoffs. This team's success has, in large part, been attributed to Chris Paul rejuvenating his career and embracing a veteran role, as well as the rise of young stud guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but Dennis Schroder is also quietly having the best season of his career and is very much a candidate for the 6th Man of the Year award. Schroder has flashed ability to produce at a high level in the past, but like Terry Rozier was fairly inconsistent and inefficient, and now he's putting it all together. He's averaging 19 points per game while shooting 46% from the field and 38% from 3, both of which are career highs, and the energy he brings off the bench, as well as his confidence to close games, have been massive for the Thunder winning as many games as they have. The next player up on this list of slept-on players now is actually a teammate of Schroder's, being Danilo Gallinari. Gallinari, in all honesty, could probably find himself on a list like this almost every year of his career, but for many of the same reasons as I mentioned for Schroder, his season is once again flying under the radar. Gallinari is an extremely versatile offensive power forward that spaces the floor exceptionally well and can create for himself inside and out. He's averaging 19 points and 6 rebounds per game while shooting 44% from the field and 41% from 3, and his ability to shoot from the perimeter opens the floor up for guards like Gilgeous-Alexander, Schroder, and Chris Paul to operate. The Thunder have a very much modernized offense with this new group, and Gallinari is at the core of it all. The next player up that is slept on this season is a highly productive young player that doesn't get nearly the amount of coverage as other young players do, being Collin Sexton of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Sexton was highly touted coming out of college, and there were plenty of debates between him and Trae Young for who the best point guard in the class would be. As Trae has risen faster than anyone anticipated, he basically put that debate to rest, but it doesn't mean by any stretch that Sexton has been a disappointment, because while the Cavaliers as a whole aren't exactly winning much, Sexton is becoming more and more comfortable by the day, and his production is already quite impressive. One of the biggest knocks on him was his lack of natural playmaking ability for others as a point guard, so when the Cavs drafted Darius Garland and moved Sexton to shooting guard, I think that helped his game out a ton. He's averaging a very strong 21 points per game this year, while shooting a highly efficient 47% from the field and 38% from three, and seeing as one of the biggest worries about him at the time of the draft was his efficiency, this is a very promising sign early on. I can definitely see him becoming a star in this league at his peak, and I truly believe he's getting overlooked just because of the team he plays on. Next up on this list of slept-on players this season, we have a guy who was breaking out in a major way right around the time that the season was stopped, being Christian Wood of the Detroit Pistons. Wood has been a journeyman throughout the G League and the end of NBA benches for 5 years, having shown tremendous potential on several occasions and dominating the Summer League and G League year in and year out, but for whatever reason, never really got a real shot in the league until recently. With the Pistons trading away Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin sitting out injured, there were a lot of minutes up for grabs in Detroit for big men, and Wood took that opportunity and ran with it. He's averaging 13 points and 6 rebounds per game for the season as a whole, but ever since he was placed in the starting lineup, he's been averaging 23 points and 10 rebounds per game, while shooting 56% from the field and 40% from three. He brings every bit of versatility NBA teams dream of having from their starting center in the modern NBA. And his ability to both stretch the floor out on the perimeter and provide a very strong inside presence make him someone that I think will be highly coveted when he hits free agency this summer. I think he's due for a big payday, so allow me to be the first to tell you that when he signs a somewhat big contract, do not be surprised. Up next on this list of slept-on players this year is a guy who has done an amazing job filling in as the #1 scoring option on the Pacers while Victor Oladipo recovered from his injury, being TJ Warren. Warren is yet another example of a player who has played his entire career on typically under-the-radar teams, so as a result, his steady improvement year to year also gets slept on. He established himself as a hybrid forward that dominated from the post and in the mid-range game, but over the last 2 years has begun to add a trustworthy three-point shot to his arsenal that has opened his game up even more. He's the Pacers' leading scorer this year so far, putting up just under 19 points per game, and he shoots 53% from the field and 38% from three. When Oladipo returns to full strength and he gets added to the mix with an in-form Warren and the rest of the crew, the Pacers might be a sleeper team to watch in the East. Next up on this list of slept-on players this season, we have the Raptors' best bench player, Norman Powell. Powell has been used as an explosive energy guy for a few years now, but his minutes were never consistent. With both Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard leaving this summer, minutes on the wing opened up, and with the chance to prove he deserves bigger minutes, he's taken control and has basically played the same amount of minutes per game as the starters. He's putting up 16 points per game while shooting 50% from the field and 40% from three, which are both benchmarks of a highly productive and reliable scoring guard. His jumper in particular has improved a ton since he came into the league, and that, combined with the shifty combination of explosive athleticism and craftiness, helped make up for some of the scoring they lost in the offseason. The Raptors always seem to be one of the best in the league at developing players, and Powell is yet another example of that. And finally, the last player we'll be discussing on this list today is Dillon Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies. No team in the NBA has overachieved more than the Memphis Grizzlies, and while Rookie of the Year favorite Ja Morant is absolutely at the core of that success, it also goes beyond that. Brooks is one player in particular that has stepped his game up immensely, and in a Grizzlies system that likes to run and gun, he has been the biggest beneficiary. Brooks is putting up a career high in points per game, averaging just shy of 16 per contest, and he's one of the team's most reliable perimeter threats. He excels in the mid-range, which, despite many say going extinct, is still an area he does a lot of damage in. Nobody could have imagined the Grizzlies would be making the playoffs in the first year of their rebuild, but that's exactly what they're on pace to do, and finding hidden gems like Brooks is part of the process that cannot go unnoticed. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think are some other slept-on players this year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.